Hello and welcome to Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 247. I'm Louise Cooke, and this month I'm looking forward to bringing you the audio from a recent Elevenses with Lisa episode. Now, this is my weekly live video series, webinar series on YouTube. And of course, after the live show, we republish everything out as a full-length video and, of course, a show notes article. Well, a while back, in episode number 18, I sat down on the show with professional genealogist Kate Eakman, and we went over my Irish genealogy brick wall. It was a great session. We made lots of headway. And in the follow-up episode, number 19, I talked about how I took what I learned in that consultation and started to fill in the blanks. If you've been working on a brick wall, and maybe recently you've come across something that's kind of changed up the game a little bit, or there's a new tech tool you've discovered, or a website that you're going to be working with or got a subscription to, the ability to go back in and fill in the blanks, focus on your research question, and really take that and make hay out of it. That's what this episode was all about. So if you want to watch the consultation itself, you can go to genealogygems.com/Lisa and watch episode number 18. It doesn't really translate all that well just for audio only. It really is something that you kind of need to see. And if you've got Irish research to do, then I would really strongly recommend it. But the more important thing that I think we can bring to today's show is, what do you do with new information that you get and how to capitalize on that. So I just kind of take you on my little genealogy journey or the week after that consultation. And I'll be sharing with you some strategies, some ideas around research questions, and of course, some favorite tech tools as always. So without further ado, let's jump into the audio from Elevenses with Lisa, episode 19. Let's talk about filling in the genealogy blanks. And like I said, this is a follow-up to episode 19, which we did last week. You can find that at genealogygems.com, and under videos in the menu, go to Elevenses with Lisa, and you'll see episode 19. And this is a consultation. It was just a 45-minute consultation on Irish research, and I booked it because I don't have high-level expertise in Irish research. I've certainly interviewed some people, but I don't have that kind of, hands-on experience. And I was really kind of stuck. And so I needed a plan. And boy, did she give me a plan. She found me some things too. Here's the scoop. Let's recap. My great-grandmother, Ellen Lynch. She's the one who talked to my Aunt Bee and told me about her mother, Margaret Lynch. And her maiden name was Scully. So the information we had was that we thought she was born around July 14th of 1840. I know she was married to Michael Lynch, and that happened right about 1860. They lived in Farmington, Wisconsin. They had a dairy farm there. And in fact, the reason why Ellen Lynch came out to San Francisco was she was the one daughter who didn't want to become a school teacher. So she came to San Francisco. She ended up going into nursing for a short time, and then she met her husband. So my initial research question was, who were the parents of Margaret Scully, born in Limerick, Ireland, on approximately July 9th, 1840? Research questions, my friends, they are your friend, and they're so critical to this. Critical for you, but also for anybody you're trying to enlist their help. So when you get in touch with somebody, you got to not only say what the question is, but differentiate who is this individual we're talking about. I get lots of email questions from listeners and viewers, and sometimes I have to go back and say, I need the full question because we haven't yet defined which Margaret Scully we're talking about, right? And I was hoping that in the process of finding out who her parents were, that would identify for me as well, where was she born? So that would have been a side benefit, is to find that parish. Okay, so I had her death certificate. It says James Scully and Bridget Madigan. Great. Now, I don't always trust death certificates. She was well into her 80s. She lived with a single son out in North Dakota. We don't know if he got it right. So that was on the death certificate, but it was pretty specific. I was happy to see first and last names for both. So then I found her obituary, and this confirmed that she said she was born in Limerick. Aunt B heard from great-grandmother Ellen Lynch that she thought she was from County Cork. I get in touch with all these cousins back east, and they say, no, it was Limerick. And sure enough, I think they were right. Okay, so that's great. So I get together, we do the consultation, and Kate Eakman over at Legacy Tree Genealogists finds a James Scully and a Bridget Madigan in the Roots Ireland website. So this is a place where we can research church marriage records, search by name, search by counties, and bingo, we had an exact match on the names. Very cool. And I love the fact that there were witnesses. The Keens were listed as well, which gives me another name to work with. Okay, but that doesn't prove that this is her parents, right? One of the things we have to think about is, and I thought about this after the consultation, how many couples are there at Roots Ireland, James Scully and Bridget Madigan? Let's face it, when it comes to Irish names, there's a lot of repetition. Just within families, let alone, in the same town, in the same parish, in the same county. So one of the first things I did was I went back to Roots Ireland after we finished up, and I did a search to see how many couples. So let's look at that. Here at Roots Ireland, now this is a subscription, so I subscribed for 1 month. It was very affordable. I'm going to go to search, just marriage records, and I went back in and I put in James Scully and then also Bridget Madigan. I'm going to click, not just Limerick, we're going to click to select all the counties. I want to search everywhere. Maybe there's another couple by this name, but there wasn't. And this was really, really good news for me because not only is there only one couple, they're in Limerick. Okay, so we love that. So I added that to my records, and I found that little button at the top that once you've got that 1 month or however long you want to do it subscription, you can add them to your account. So that was how I tracked him. So this was really encouraging. So remember, just because we find even on a perfect match in a couple, that does not mean we are looking at the right people. And by the way, we still have not confirmed these are Margaret's parents, have we? She says that's their names in her death certificate. She names that county in the obituary, well, her son does. That's really strong, but I'm not convinced. Okay, so we need more proof for that. So, how many couples? Just one. Fantastic. I even took a screenshot just to keep this for myself to remind myself I had done this step. Okay, so who were their children? Kate mentioned this. One of the things that you can do is try and research and compile all the children for this couple. And we did that in the Irish records, and she did the screenshots for me. And after the consultation, it's wonderful that whoever you're working with will send you all the screenshots and the links and everything that you did. So I had a lot of names here: Maria and Bridget, Michael, Catherine, Thomas, Patrick, and Daniel. I need to create now a kind of new and revised research plan for myself. And one of the first elements was going to be, who are the children of Bridget and James, and were they in America? Particularly because we know Margaret was. So good chance, I think there's a good chance that some of these siblings, maybe not all of them, some of them may have come to America. If I can track that down, I'm going to have an easier time with U.S. records in terms of finding more death certificates and that type of thing. So I made my list. What kind of records are we looking for? And I thought, okay, first off, I'm going to go for the census records. We also want to look for death certificates because so often they do have the parents' names, and very often the person who is the informant is either a spouse or a sibling or somebody close by. We're hoping that they know what they're talking about. And newspapers, because of course obituaries would be key, but there might be more information, particularly obituaries, possibly naming parents or Limerick, just finding more of those confirmations of the kinds of things I'd been finding. So after you get your initial push, look at your research questions, see if you need to fine tune it to take the next step. Keep it small. I find so many times research questions really are like 6 questions in one. Break them down, put them kind of in the order, the logical order that you think, if I find this, it will make this more logical than the next step. So I got that settled that I was going to look for the children and then make a list of the kinds of records. And I also kind of targeted which sites. Now, right now, I can't travel a lot to go to archives and places in person. I would love to. But I made a list of the kinds of websites, and I'll go through those with you that I was going to turn to find these. But the first thing I did, and I encourage you to do this, I don't do it that often, I'll be honest. Bill is the spreadsheet guru. I am not. He's an accountant, a finance guy. So I got my Excel spreadsheet out, and I made a really simple little spreadsheet so I could start to track, because my thought was, okay, I've already got this list of these children. It'd be nice to record what I have, and then I can add columns and things for things like, how old should they be in 1860? How old should they be in 1870? It was actually very convenient to just glance over there and go, okay, no, this isn't a good match. Oh, this is a great match. So I put them in there, and I even left a space where I think, according to the birth date that we have for Margaret, that where Margaret should be. And there is kind of a gap between Michael and Catherine. So I recorded everything that I had so far in my spreadsheet. So my first step in the plan was to go and look for census records. So let's go see what we can find. There's a couple of different types of census records we can get in different places. I'm searching for siblings. I'm going to focus on Minnesota because that's where Margaret's husband was buried in Stillwater, remember, just on the other side of the St. Croix River. And that's where they got married. I found the marriage record, remember, right at the end of that consultation. Okay, they moved to Wisconsin. So that's kind of my secondary place because it looked to me like they were associated with this St. Michael's Church in Minnesota on the other side of the river. And so if there were siblings, I'm guessing they would have been going to the same church. That's why I kind of ticked Minnesota higher on my list, even though Margaret and Michael had the dairy farm over in Wisconsin, about 20 miles away. So I'm going to be looking at both U.S. federal census and state census because here in the U.S. we have both and they happen at different times. I love that many of the states, of course, they stagger them. If we're doing the U.S. census federally at the 10, 20, 30, the states tended to be on the fives. They were 5 years into it. So 1865, 1875, and you get some nice fill in between the U.S. federal census. So some of the places I was targeting was Ancestry.com, because I have a subscription. They have a great, census collection. Family Search, because it's free. If you don't have an Ancestry account, then you might want to go to Family Search first. And I figured I'm going to search first at the Minnesota Historical Society. If they don't have state censuses, maybe they know and they can tell me where I can find them. Okay? And I might even find them over at Ancestry or at one of those places as well. So I start searching, and here's 1870. Who do I find? In Stillwater Township, which is where St. Michael's is, I found James, Thomas, and Daniel. These are the three older brothers with their mother, Bridget. Bridget is 60 years old, and she's keeping house for the boys. I don't know that this is them, but it looks really good. And in my head, I'm genealogy happy dancing. So first thing I did was I thought, okay, wait a second. I don't want to clutter up all my wonderful organization on my computer with stuff that I'm not sure yet, that I haven't proven. So I just went in and I created folders that were maybe folders. You can call them whatever you want, but these were a holding spot by son. I started with just throwing them in the folder for census, and then I started breaking out additional as the boys got married and I found more census records. I would put them in their own folders. But all of this was a staging area until I could feel confident that I had found the right people. So that's something you might want to think about. If you need help with organizing your computer folders, check out our earlier Elevenses with Lisa's episodes. I will have a link in the show notes to take you so that you can organize your computer folders. Sure enough, at the Minnesota Historical Society, I find the 1865 census. I should maybe expect to see something similar that I saw on the 1870. And sure enough, in 1865, Bridget is the head of household, and she's got Thomas, Patrick, and Daniel. So not all the boys are there. Where are the girls? We don't know yet. So I just continued through these census records and found different variations of these siblings in 1865, 1870 federal, 1880 federal, 1885 state census. Thank goodness for the Minnesota Historical Society because these were available for free to search. So I'm going to focus on the brothers just for now because I think I have found them and they're matching up. And so I want to learn more about them. So one of the things I started noticing in the later censuses was there were some naturalization and some immigration years that were listed. And so that's something to keep an eye out for if you're in the same time frame that I'm looking at. As we get further closer to today, we get more information in the census. So again, that spreadsheet is really helpful. It's a place to kind of make notes about those immigration years, even though I'm not quite ready to research passenger lists yet. It's a wonderful place to drop those in. Death records. I've collected as many as I can, and I'm really just finding the boys at this point. So I went to familysearch.org and started searching for death records, and I find a James Scully, and he died in 1909, and he's the right age, according to my little spreadsheet, and his parents he lists as James Scully and Bridget Madigan. What was neat about this was that you can go to the Minnesota Historical Society. As I recall correctly, you had to order the certificates, but Family Search had very detailed transcriptions. So this actually showed me the parents' names. The age fits, the place fits, and his name is James Scully. Okay, I think he's the oldest boy. Then I find Thomas. So we've got James Scully as the father, Bridget Madigan. Thomas is the right age for the birth date that I have in my little spreadsheet, and he passed away in 1917. I'm telling you, I'm feeling good about this because these really match up in every way possible. I feel more comfortable that I'm seeing both the father and the mother's names on both and that they just line up perfectly with Margaret. So I'm going to go collect all death records that I can find. I have some that I need to write away for and that kind of thing. Stay tuned because we've got more blanks to fill in right after this. Today's episode is sponsored by MyHeritage, a global discovery platform enjoyed by 110 million people worldwide. MyHeritage has it all and offers a full-service experience that bridges your past, present, and future. MyHeritage has developed powerful genealogy tools to enrich your family tree and take your research to the next level. Receive automatic matches to family trees of fellow MyHeritage users and historical records, which provide new details that you can add to your tree. Explore 12 billion historical records to uncover fascinating new insights about your ancestors. Add new information to your family tree in one click. Check your tree for inaccuracies, colorize your black and white photos, and connect with relatives around the globe. MyHeritage makes it all possible and puts the discoveries at your fingertips. I've been colorizing some of my own personal family photos, and not only are they beautiful, but in many of the photos, it's actually been revealing more detail so I can see more of my family history. Growing your family tree is easier than ever before with MyHeritage. The discoveries are out there and waiting to be made. Visit myheritage.com and try it today. That's myheritage.com. If there's one project that's been hanging over me the last few years, it's been getting all my old home movies digitized. It was really daunting because they're in so many different formats. I had high 8, mini DV, VHS, and even 8mm reels. I met the folks from Larson Digital at a genealogy conference a couple years ago, and they have really saved the day. They're awesome to work with, and they could take it all. So I was a little nervous about shipping my stuff out. You might be nervous about that too. I put half my stuff in a box and I FedExed it to them. And they got it the next day, and before I knew it, that exciting email arrived saying, here's all your old home movies in an MP4 digital format. That means now I can work with them. Turn them into little videos for social media, longer videos for family get-togethers. And soon after that, the DVDs arrived in the mail, and everything looked better than it had before. So I just shipped out the other half of my tapes, and I can't wait to see the movies that I haven't seen in decades. Do it now. Get your old home movies digitized. Visit larsondigital.com/Lisa. Larson is with an E, Larsen, digital.com/Lisa. That's the page where you're going to find exclusive discounts just for you. Tell them that you're sending them your precious memories because you heard about it on Genealogygems, and they will take really good care of you. Visit larsondigital.com/Lisa. All right, let's jump back into filling in the genealogy blanks. Newspapers. Love newspapers. I wrote a book about newspapers and how to research them. It's been a really changing part of the genealogy industry in terms of what's available and the technology that they have on some of these sites to help us do the search. Now, typically, my mantra is always, obituaries are the tip of the iceberg. So when we go for newspapers, we're really going for so much more information. But in this case, I'm really hoping that I'm going to find, first and foremost, obituaries, because that's a chance to maybe name that they're from Limerick, maybe name James and Bridget as parents, and of course, also reconfirm other siblings, possibly. A lot of that kind of information really depends on the time frame that the obituary is issued, and also the area. In some places, they're listing everybody who's still alive. In other places, it's just minimal information. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and that good old Minnesota Historical Society came through. So depending on where you're researching, what state, just go to Google and Google the state Historical Society. Start there. Also go find the county Historical Society if there is one. Again, even if they don't have as robust an ongoing collection as Minnesota does, they're going to be able to point you in the right direction, oftentimes with links straight over to other websites where they believe they can help you find the information that you're looking for. Minnesota has a fantastic online historical newspaper collection, and I found April 18th, 1891 in Stillwater, on the Stillwater Messenger, is Mrs. Bridget Scully, mother of Thomas Scully, died last Saturday of old age. Deceased was born in Limerick. I think they just wrote this for me, don't you think? Limerick, Ireland, 84 years old, so she's really right in the right sweet spot of the age. Get this. She has 8 children immigrated to the U.S. before 1850. I'm excited to see the 1850. I'm a little suspicious if that's quite right, but it tells me, if nothing else, I've been focusing on passenger lists around 1860, right before Margaret gets here and marries Michael. It's very possible that they came quite a few years before, and that changes everything because I told Kate and I told you what trouble I was having finding passenger lists. I did not expect this kind of information in an obituary. I'm thrilled. And it's implying that she came with these 8 children by herself. So after the heat of the potato famine, either James has passed in Ireland, or he's left the family, or he's ended up in prison. We don't know. That's another story to pursue. But to read that she says she came to America sometime in the very early 1850s or just before, and that she had all 8 children with her. She's resided in this city nearly 40 years. The funeral occurred at St. Michael's Church Monday morning, and it tells me where she's buried. So the Catholic Cemetery at South Stillwater. This is telling me so much. She's the mother of Thomas, the one I've been finding. She's born in Limerick. She's born around 1807, the right time. She's got 8 children, came without her husband, immigrated before 1850. I've got the church that we know the rest of the family was involved in, and a burial location. Oh my gosh, I tell you. Okay, this was one of those sleepless nights. Have you had one of these? Over 170 newspaper articles relating to this family in the Minnesota Historical Society. It's unbelievable. I couldn't stop. I had to get them all. You know how it is when there's multiple pages? You're like, if I stop now, I'm going to forget where I was. And oh my gosh, I had to get them all. And I did. So this was a very simple search. I started kind of broad. I just went with Scully. Okay. And then once you search in their database for the keyword, you can filter down to the county. And in fact, you could filter down just to Stillwater. So I did Stillwater. And then once I did county, it really didn't give me anything more. But this was tremendous. And it's really fun. You start to get the personalities of these kids through these newspaper articles. You can kind of see the roles they played in the family and the businesses they had. We'll talk more about that in a second. So I thought, there's that much going on in the newspaper. They're not that far from Minneapolis. Could I find more? Sure enough, newspapers.com. Once I kind of exhausted the Minnesota Historical Society, I went over to newspapers.com because you can't have enough newspapers. And I did a search. I'm not kidding. The first one, April 13th, 1891, gleaned at Stillwater. So they'd have this column with the local news of the town just down the road. And along with the other stuff going on, the death of Mrs. Bridget Scully. Winter wheat is doing nicely and Mrs. Scully has passed away. So down below, Mrs. Bridget Scully, mother of Thomas Scully. So Thomas is a little more prominent, and I found a lot of articles about him at the society. She died early yesterday morning of old age. She was 84 years old, was a native of Ireland. Mrs. Scully has resided in the city for 36 years. It was funny, it was a little more specific. The funeral is going to be held at 9 o'clock in the morning at St. Michael's Church and remains interned at the South Stillwater Cemetery. So look at your map. Look at your map and see what are the other towns. Where's the county seat? Don't worry about state lines, because in this case, it has nothing to do with it, okay? Expand your search to the larger cities in the area. And in fact, newspapers.com, I haven't even exhausted it. And there are a couple of different papers. St. Paul and Minneapolis both had my Scullys popping up. Now, I wanted to share with you, because this is a question I get a lot, particularly with my newspaper book, about clipping. And I've talked to you before about Evernote, and you can put your newspaper clippings into Evernote. You can even use the Evernote clipper to do the clipping. But lately, I am really using another tool to do the clipping part. I still toss them into Evernote. I put them on my hard drive. Evernote will do the OCR, which is fantastic. It will make these newspaper articles keyword searchable if you're using Evernote, the subscription service. But not everybody does. I think this clipping tool, Snagit, is really the way to go. So what I love snagging the header here, the messenger, the date, and the article itself. I use Snagit. It's made by TechSmith, and you can learn more about it, tinyurl.com/snaggems, because we have a link over to them that helps support this free show, which I appreciate. But I've used this for years, and I wanted to show you how this works, because it's a question we have, particularly when we get those long columns. How do we get it all, but have it large enough that we can read it later when we're pulling it up? So here we are at the Minnesota Historical Society, and we're going to just do a search for newspapers. And click the newspaper hub. So here I'm going to run this search, find an article that I want to clip. So I put in Scully. Remember, I just did a basic keyword search. They have such a nice interface at Minnesota. I mean, it's got so many tools to work with. Okay, so I'm going down and filtering to Stillwater. And I'm just going to select the year that I know that the obituary should appear in. So here's one of them. Click the newspaper. When you get there, Snagit is a downloadable software program. So you own it. You don't have to do the whole subscription thing. Okay? You download that, and I like to zoom in and get in on the spot. First and foremost, I like to grab the header. If I can get the name of the paper as well as the date, this is just extra confirmation of where this came from. Have you ever been so clip happy with newspapers that you forgot to put where you got it from, the website, the date of the newspaper, what page was it on? This is how I like to do it. So little box will pop up when I turn on Snagit, and it gives me those same little crosshairs that Evernote does. Now at newspapers.com, they have a clipper built in as well, but not everything does. So I'm going to go back and go down to the area. This was a fairly long column, and a lot of times it's just one paragraph for each piece of news out of a town. So I really don't want the whole column. I want to zoom in it and grab myself the part that's talking about my family. and I'm just using my mouse to draw the box. Now you press the control key on a PC, probably it's command on a Mac, and you grab and touch each one so you've highlighted them, you've selected them. And then under the menu, you go to Image and select Combine. And this is awesome. It pops it up in a box and you can resort. You can put these in whatever order. I've had ones where I've clipped 4 different things and it's different parts of the page, how the column continues. And I want to get them in the order that they occurred on the page. You can give it a title and then you click Combine and it just puts them together really neatly. And then you can save it to your computer. You can drop it into Evernote. I think you can even save it directly into Evernote from Snagit, and that way Evernote will have it as well. So I love Snagit. I'm using it constantly. Okay, so I'm going through all of these articles, and I'm really just finding confirmation after confirmation that we're talking about the same parents, the same county, the same church. I really feel like that it's cumulatively coming together and saying, I've got the right couple in Ireland that we first found. But I also found some really fun stuff on the side too. So I want to share that with you too and show you a couple of tech tips, things that you can do. 2 saloon licenses were granted to Thomas Scully at 129 South Main Street and to Lundgren and Brodeen. So I'm looking at this going, I could use Google Earth and go visit and see where Thomas Scully's saloon was. He did seem to be a fairly prominent guy in town. Made a name for himself, had some businesses, raised his family in Stillwater. So let's go to Google Earth. So this is a free software program, and I'll have a link in the show notes where you can watch a whole episode on Google Earth that we did. I type in the address, click search, and it zooms right in. Now our hope is that it still might look somewhat the same as it did back then. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they've just made a parking lot. But we can use these tools in the upper right-hand corner to get different view. You can click on the screen, it'll zoom you right in, or you can use the zoom tool. And there's that little marker right on top of that building. So we're going to grab the street view guy, it's the yellow peg icon, and drop it on the blue line. Don't drop it on the building because it'll just fall over and play dead. Drop it on the blue line, and you're staying outside of Thomas's saloon. Look at this town. Oh my gosh, we need to get rid of COVID so I can go visit Stillwater, Minnesota. That's all I have to say. Now up at the top, there's an address. Google Earth will tell you the address. And here it's like 134 and then 129. So I'm thinking maybe it's this next one. We can use these little arrows to just move down the street. Yeah, so it's the red awning because 125 is the next one over. This is the building. This is probably the storefront where this is where the saloon was. I kind of like the view. We want to go back, click that little arrow on the street. We can go back. And really what we're doing is we're jumping from picture to picture that the Google Earth car took as it drove down the street. So when you find something in Google Earth, you can create an HD photograph of it. You click the picture icon. In the upper left, you can title it. So we can say, this is Thomas Scully's bar. I'm going to put I can have source information. How did I find that out? I can put the address and type that in our title and description box. And remember that little HD image icon is up there in the toolbar. Now you can select the resolution. If you really want a really high resolution, you can select that. I tend to go for a little smaller picture if it's just for regular use. Click Save Image, and you can save it to your hard drive. So that's how you get an image or a photograph out of Google Earth where you're not having to screenshot the whole program. You're getting a beautiful HD picture of one of your ancestral locations. So just a little tech tip, kind of fun. I'm going to click Exit Street View. So whenever you're in Street View, if you want to get back out to that satellite and take a look at the greater area, you can click the Exit Street View. And of course, as I continued on, I found more newspaper articles. And actually, it was the census that we found the first address. So I was going through these and I found the house numbers were starting to get listed. I think this was around 1900. And if you turn your head, of course, along that margin, sometimes you'll see that they've written in the street name, and sure enough, they had. So I found Thomas Scully's house as well. Continuing to fill in the blanks, of course, there's lots of different death records, and I'm really showing you a fraction, just a representative example of the kinds of records that I went after this last week as part of this, some of the highlights, if you will. So I'm like, where is Patrick? Patrick is not coming up in the census later. I'm not finding other kinds of records I would expect that I'm seeing for his brothers. And sure enough, I did a search over at Family Search, and they had a link to find a grave. And Patrick Scully died in 1866. He was 19 years old. If you look closely at this tombstone, so where it says he was aged 19 years, 7 months, and right underneath of it, beloved son of Bridget Scully. Isn't that cool? And it also says just below that, he was born in Limerick, Ireland. Thank you, Patrick. There were so few records, but we did not lose him. Do you ever feel like that? You're just kind of restoring people that almost got lost in the shuffle of history. And that's one of the really cool things about what we do as genealogists and the legacy and bringing families together both now, in the future, and in the past. I love that. I feel so close to these people now. I've spent so much time with them this week. Here's a question from the live chat. What if in Street View there is no blue line for the guy to go to? It just means there's no Street View. When you grab the icon, you drag it and you hover over and let it register. If after 5 seconds you don't see a blue line, there is no Street View currently available. And there are some towns where they don't hit every street. There are some countries where even the country won't allow them to come and do Street View. So it can be spotty. It's pretty comprehensive in the US and other, like in England. In France, they did Street View by riding a bike down those little tiny streets that had a tripod on the top, and they took pictures that way. So in Paris, you can find Street View around the world. But if you don't see the blue line, then you don't have Street View. However, about every 30 days, at least that's what I've heard from Google, they do upload new imagery. So that Street View is out there. That car is out there. The bikes, the different ways they do it. They even have people doing Street View with backpacks. They're getting new imagery, and they are adding new imagery, and they are sometimes updating imagery that wasn't very good quality the first time around. So there's still hope that you're going to find Street View. Did you find the missing census for Margaret pre-marriage? No. I'm still working on it, though. And I'm having my suspicions about, did she always go by Margaret? Ellen always talked about her as Maggie. And somebody mentioned in last week's session, I saw Maria. Could Maria be Margaret? And I did some Googling on that. That doesn't seem like a typical exchange of names, like a nickname for Margaret. I have work to do on it, definitely, because I need to figure out if she's being called something else. I did find Catherine, and I think Catherine was working as a servant. But I have more work to do on that as well, because as we know, ladies get married, their names change. There's not a lot of information in those earlier censuses where I just see like a 16-year-old working as a servant in somebody's home. But it made sense. I started seeing individual girls matching the name Bridget, Catherine, but they're all by themselves in somebody's home kind of a thing. So I've got more work to do to really solidify that and to back that up. Okay, so 1 week later, I feel really confident about James, Thomas, Patrick, and Daniel. Tons of newspaper articles. I've got death certificates. I've got obituaries and census records. And I'm going back in and kind of filling in my Excel spreadsheet and building on it, because although I feel we really have confirmed we have the right couple in Ireland, I want the whole picture. And so this gives me a place to kind of compile that. At this point, after 1 week, hopefully you do something like this, you make a lot of progress. Now, what do? You have to kind of rethink where we're at on our research question. Does that change? Because I'm feeling far more confident about establishing the parents that I have for her. The research question, who were the parents of Margaret Scully, born in Limerick, Ireland on approximately July 9th of 1840? I'm pretty darn confident they are James Scully and Bridget Madigan. In what parish was she born? I think that we're talking Kilcolman. Of course, the one piece I have is I have not found Margaret her baptismal record. And that can happen. So my next goal, I think this is really getting to the highest priority, is to browse, go back to Roots Ireland, and I've actually really scoured Roots Ireland. I have done every gyration I can think of. So I'm going to go to, and the name is slipping, I think it's Ask Ireland. It's the one with the microfilmed digitized baptismal records. They were not indexed on that website, but Kate showed it to me, showed me how to use it. I'm going to go back and do a foot search. I'm going to go through every record, and I'm going to do a wider net, and I'm going to see if I can spot Margaret in there in any form that just maybe got missed. And it may be that they totally transcribed Scully incorrectly. And that would make the most sense, that if that last name is just so off, that maybe the baptismal didn't get captured. So that is high on my list. And one of the things I'm going to be adding to the show notes for you for the premium members in the Resource Center is I asked Kate to go through and give me a nice clipping of a baptismal record and then decipher it for me, because that's key. If I'm going to go through and look at them piece by piece and try to figure them out, I really wanted to understand. There's some Latin in there. There's like they had Jacobus when it's James. So she did a wonderful job of doing that. I'm going to have that for you as a download. And I'm going to be looking for more in the U.S. in newspapers, because I've got newspapers.com with a ton of stuff. I did a very quick cursory look at Chronicling America. Didn't see anything that grabbed me, but I know Newspapers has more articles on the family. So my next steps. And when you do a project like this, don't shortchange yourself. Give yourself a moment to really stop. You're fresh in the moment, and develop your next steps now. One of the mistakes I've made in past research is you're just exhausted by the end of this kind of comprehensive search, and you think, okay, well, I'll come back to it and I'll do something. And then all of a sudden, weeks and months are going by. And by the time you go back to develop your next steps, you're cold, right? You don't want a cold case on your hands. So consider your next steps development as the closing of the door until you're ready to start working on it again. This is the moment to do this. So look for marriages of Margaret's female siblings. I'm really comfortable with St. Michael's Church. I know that I'm in the right place, and I want to look for their burials. I want to look for their marriages. So I'm going to get back in touch with St. Michael's Church and see what I can find there, and just read up more on the history of that church, and maybe do some more find a grave looking, some of the gravesite websites searches to see what I can find. Also going through newspapers.com, of course, there are several Minneapolis and St. Paul papers. My gosh, they were all running articles on Stillwater. So I'm looking forward to doing all that. Again, my research goal hasn't changed too much. It's not who are her parents, but it really is now, where are all the children? Can I link each one successfully to Bridget and James, as well as Margaret? And resume my search of passenger list records. Now, that was a little door that cracked open for me during this last week, because I started seeing this year that was around 1851, 1852. The boys were mentioning immigration years right in that sweet spot. Plus, Thomas says he naturalized. Now, I did a really quick search, didn't find anything, but that's on my list for a deeper dive. So if I could find naturalization records, I think I'm going to get even more detailed information, depending on when they happened. Right? The more recent, the more information. The older, maybe not so much. So I've got some work cut out for me there. I wanted to show you, I know lots of you are premium members. At my website, I wanted to show all of you where to find the show notes. In the main menu, we now have Elevenses. And under that, you can click Elevenses with Lisa, video, and show notes. That's where my new landing page is. I'm trying to get this all organized. The PDF downloads start at episode 13. This week, I am working on getting the PDFs done for all the back episodes, so you members can go back and download those as well. You need to log in to your membership. If you have a membership, log in, and that will get you those out of the resource area. Everybody has access, of course, to the show notes webpage. So when you click the one that you want, you'll be able to watch the replay of the video. You can see you're logged in. Members can go down to the resource area. Everybody can go through and read this step by step. Members have in the resource area the PDF download. It's ad-free. It's got everything written out for you. It's really like a cheat sheet for what we did in the episode. And that's there under resources. And you can always find resources because it's right above comments. And I hope you'll go down to the comments section and let me know what you learned. Let me know if you found a Margaret under a different name. And I mentioned for this episode, I'm going to have just that little blank spreadsheet for you in case it's helpful to you. And also I'm going to get the deciphering of the baptism record for Irish records for you as a little download cheat sheet as well for premium members. Also, if you happen to be a member and you want to learn more about Google Earth, if you go under premium videos, the geographic area, there's a lot of videos for you. So you can do the Google Earth for genealogy beginners, 1 hour session. All these have handouts that are downloadable. How to create a map collection. I think you'll really enjoy time travel. That's one of my favorites. And I even have videos on how to find old maps and things. The other thing I wanted to alert you to was under records. So if newspaper research is something you feel like you're just, herding cats, and newspapers are kind of like that. They're all over the place. Check out, this is a brand new updated 1 hour newspaper class that I did. Just recorded it, and there's an updated downloadable handout, and it's step by step. It's really all the tips and tricks that have kind of helped me really dig into papers and where to find them and how to find them. Sometimes we do have to do some creative Googling to find out who's got those papers out there. So lots of resources for you, whether you're a member or not. I hope you're a member because we got lots of really good stuff for you. But if you're not, you always have those show notes. And if you want to learn about membership under premium, just click subscribe and it explains what you get and how you sign up and all that good stuff. And you'll even hear from some folks and what they've found in some of those classes they've watched. So that's it, my friends. We filled in a lot of blanks. It was really, really hard for me to choose what to show you. Oh my gosh, that was one of the hardest parts. I wanted to remind you, because they were so gracious in lending Kate to us for a full hour, Legacy Tree Genealogists. I even got some emails from some folks. How do I get a consultation with somebody? They are fantastic because they have such a large group of people who are really vetted, who have expertise. If you have a certain area, you've got Southern US or you've got Australian or internationally, they have an expert who can handle it for you. So we hope that you'll let them know that you heard about it through Genealogygems. And it's legacytreegenealogist.com/genealogygems. They do the bigger projects as well. They'll do a full-blown research for you if you want them to. But I got to tell you, that 45-minute consultation, that did it for me. This was so much fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you at least got a tech tip that you liked and you felt maybe a little inspired that there's hope out there. I mean, oh my gosh, if there's hope for mine, there's hope for yours. And I wanted to mention to you, okay, I did a presentation for MyHeritage on the collection catalog. Now, they just announced that they just revamped their super search, and it's super. I loved it. It's awesome. But I did a session for them. It's about like a 30-minute session on how to use, it's got basically their card catalog. And you can watch it for free. The link is really long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the show notes for this episode, and you could go watch that for free. Checking out a website's card catalog, they call it the collection catalog. That's the way to really see what it is you're not getting when you search. When you're just searching for names, you're missing stuff. And I've got some amazing examples for you in that presentation that's free. Thanks so much for joining me for Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 247. I hope you enjoyed filling in the genealogy blanks, and I hope it's given you some new inspiration, maybe to go back and tackle a brick wall that you haven't tackled recently, or to take some of those new gems that you've found recently and really multiply them and make more out of them. I'm going to have show notes for you for this episode. If you head over to genealogygems.com under podcasts in the menu, that's the free Genealogy Gems podcast. Click on that. It'll take you to the link for episode 247. And that link will take you over to episode 19 of Elevenses with Lisa, which again is my weekly YouTube show. There is where you're going to find all the really detailed show notes. If you are a Genealogy Gems premium member, I've got bonuses for you for that episode, so don't miss those. Scroll down the page till you get to the resources section. And there you'll find a downloadable handout that's ad-free. It's a PDF, really convenient to use, as well as the other download that I mentioned. I think I've got my blank Excel spreadsheet there for you to use. So if you're a premium member, thank you so much for being a member. We love having you, and we hope that you find our bonus downloads really helpful for the Elevenses with Lisa series. And of course, if you want to join us and become a member, head to genealogygems.com and under premium, click subscribe. There you'll find all the information about the yearly membership that we have available, which not only gives you those bonus downloadable items for Elevenses with Lisa, but you get a premium podcast that is exclusive for premium members. And of course, the extensive archive I have of my classes on video, along with the downloadable handouts. We are really getting lots and lots of those updated this year. It's been very rewarding. So you have some of the latest and greatest information when it comes to your genealogy research. If you are listening on the Genealogy Gems podcast app, which is available in the App Store, tap the little bonus icon. Looks like a gift box. I've got a quick little audio extra there for you as well. Thank you so much for listening, friend. I'll talk to you soon.